There's a test to know whether someone is or isn't your twin flame that most people will never take. Not because it's complicated or requires special skills, but because it requires something that goes against everything we've been taught about seeking answers. This test isn't in any YouTube video, it can't be found on esoteric websites, it's not sold by psychics or tarot readers. In fact, the more you search for it outside yourself, the farther away it gets. And Carl Jung knew this. After decades studying the human psyche, he discovered something revolutionary about how we recognize deep truths. He realized there's a fundamental difference between seeking confirmation and accessing the absolute truth about soul connections. And this difference completely changes not just the understanding of twin flames, but the very nature of certainty itself. If you're watching this video right now, it's not a coincidence. Jung said there are no coincidences, only synchronicities that guide us to the information our soul needs to receive. And you've arrived here because you've probably already gone through this experience of seeking confirmation about who your true twin flame is in every possible way, but still feeling like something's missing, like the definitive answer slips through your fingers every time it seems close. Today, I'm going to reveal why this happens, what the only test is that can truly give you the certainty you're seeking, and most importantly, I'm going to teach you step by step how to perform this test right now. But I need to warn you. What I'm about to reveal here will require a courage that few people develop. The courage to trust a source of wisdom you've been taught your whole life to ignore. And if you stay until the end, you'll discover how to distinguish, through this supreme test, whether what you're feeling is a true twin flame connection or not. But first, you need to understand exactly what happens when someone seeks external confirmation about a soul connection, and why this process, as natural as it may seem, actually moves you further and further from the only answer that matters. Observe the typical journey of someone who suspects they've found their twin flame. At first, there's an overwhelming recognition, a sensation of having found something that transcends ordinary relationships. The intensity is undeniable, the magnetism inexplicable. But then comes doubt. Is this real? Isn't it just physical attraction or emotional projection? And this is where the external quest for validation begins. The person watches videos, consults tarot readers, each offering different interpretations of the cards. They seek out psychics, each picking up on different aspects of the energy. And here's the pattern. Every source consulted offers temporary relief, a confirmation that calms for hours or days, but inevitably, the doubt returns. But why does this happen? Because there's a fundamental limit to what any external person can grasp about the nature of a connection that another person is living. A skilled tarot reader can perceive energetic intensity between two people. A sensitive psychic can pick up that something significant is happening at the soul level. A well-researched video can describe patterns that resonate with the experience of thousands. But there's a dimension of truth that is absolutely individual, untransferable, impossible to be accessed by someone from the outside. The one that can only be known by the person living it. However, it's crucial to understand that seeking external guidance is completely natural, completely human, completely understandable that you would seek confirmation outside yourself. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. When you search for this external validation, you're not being weak, dependent, or spiritually immature. You're being human. We're programmed from birth to seek this external confirmation, to learn from those who have more experience, to rely on collective wisdom. And there are moments on this journey where seeking information, guidance, and external perspectives is not only valid, but necessary for your growth. So I'm not here to tell you that all of this is useless, or that you should have ignored all these sources. On the contrary, all of this was preparing you, educating you, helping you develop a vocabulary to name experiences that are difficult to describe, giving you reference points to understand what you were feeling. But these sources are only truly right when you're intuitively guided to them. And now the time has come to understand that the real twin flame test is within you. Because there exists within every human being, and always has existed, a part that knows things the conscious mind doesn't know. An intelligence that operates below the level of the ego and its needs, below wounds and projections, below even the most intense desires. Jung spent decades studying this part of the psyche, which he called the self. And when you develop the capacity to access and listen to the self, it never lies, never deludes itself, never projects. And what the self knows is more reliable than 1,000 tarot readings, more precise than anything any psychic could pick up on. But there's a problem. Most people have been conditioned since childhood to distrust this inner voice, to prioritize it last instead of first. They've been taught that external experts know more about their life than they do, that spiritual authorities have access to truths they don't have, that subjective perception is less reliable than the objective opinion of other people. And here we arrive at the central point of everything. There's a way to relearn how to access and trust this inner intelligence. It's not self-delusion. It's not convincing yourself of what you want to believe. It's a deep psychological process of reconnection with layers of the psyche that operate on different frequencies from ordinary conscious thought. And when you master this process, when you truly learn to listen to the intuition connected to the self, everything changes. Because this is the infallible test. It's not a list of signs. It's not a tarot reading. It's not a consultation with a psychic. The infallible test to know if someone is your twin flame is to develop the capacity to hear the voice of your own soul, the one that never lies, never projects, never gets confused. And when you master this, you not only gain the ability to discern if someone is your twin flame, but the ability to make all important life decisions from a place of deep alignment with essential truth. When you develop this trust and intuition connected to the self, external searches stop being desperate crutches and become what they always should have been. Conscious tools of exploration and learning. You can watch videos, do consultations, read about signs, but now you do it from a place of curiosity instead of need, exploration instead of dependence. And when something resonates deeply, you recognize that it wasn't that which created the truth in you, but that it served as a mirror for a truth you already knew but needed to see reflected to bring it fully into consciousness. When the self guides you to an external source, there's a calm, a quiet certainty that this is the next right step. And when you receive the information, there's a deep resonance, as if something within you had been activated, recognized, validated. External information doesn't create a new truth in you. It illuminates a truth that was already there. It's like when you read something and think, I've always known this deep down, but I'd never been able to put it into words. But when you seek external sources from the ego, from fear, from desperate need for control, you feel anxiety, desperation, a compulsion to consult one more psychic, watch one more video, take one more test, always hoping that this time you'll finally receive the definitive answer that will end your uncertainty. Jung developed the concept of self to differentiate it from the ego. The ego is the part that doubts, that's afraid, that needs external validation, that compares itself, that worries about what others will think. The self is the part that simply is, that knows, that sees truth without judgment or distortion. And the journey of any person seeking genuine self-knowledge is to learn to distinguish the voice of the ego from the voice of the self, and gradually develop deep trust in what the self communicates. Before two people incarnate in this life, before they assume physical bodies, they've already established the terms of the meeting if they're true twin flames. They've already chosen the circumstances, the timing, the challenges, and yes, even the confusion and uncertainty. Because the twin flame journey isn't about having a perfect romantic relationship. It's about accelerated soul growth, about spiritual awakening, about deep transformation that couldn't happen any other way. And for this transformation to happen, the person must go through processes that force them to develop capacities that would otherwise remain dormant. The uncertainty you're experiencing right now is forcing you to develop something crucial, the capacity to trust intuition, even when you don't have external evidence that confirms it. It's pushing you to develop a relationship of deep trust with the self, with the part that's connected to the divine. It's teaching you to distinguish between the voice of the ego that's always afraid, always needs guarantees, always wants to control everything, and the voice of the soul that simply knows, even when the ego is panicking. If the answer were obvious, if all the signs were clear and unequivocal, if there were no challenge or confusion, you wouldn't develop this capacity for internal discernment, which is exactly what you came to develop in this life through this connection. Uncertainty isn't the problem. Uncertainty is the portal. It's through uncertainty that you're forced to look inward instead of constantly searching outward. It's through confusion that you learn to distinguish what is genuine truth from what is projection or unresolved desire. And now we arrive at the supreme test, the one Jung would recognize as the only one that truly matters. This test isn't something you do once and get a yes or no answer. It's a process of reconnection with the deepest intuition, the one that's connected directly to the divine, to the wisdom that transcends the ego and its limitations. And the reason this is the most powerful test is simple. It's the only one that accesses the original source of truth instead of second or third-hand interpretations. So here's how to do the intuition test. The definitive test to know whether someone is or isn't your twin flame, based on the principles Jung developed throughout his life. The first step is creating the sacred inner space. You can't access genuine intuition, the voice of the self, when you're in the common mental state where 1,000 thoughts compete for attention, where anxiety and fear dominate, where the ego is desperate for answers. It's necessary to enter a different state of consciousness, a space of deep calm where the ego finally quiets down enough for the more subtle voice of the soul to be heard. Find a place where there won't be interruptions for at least 30 minutes. Turn off all notifications. Create an environment that feels sacred and safe. Sit comfortably with your spine straight but relaxed. Close your eyes and simply begin observing your breath without trying to change it. The mind will be agitated, jumping from thought to thought, perhaps already anticipating the answers you want to receive, or fearing those you don't want. Don't fight against it, just observe. Every time you notice you've gotten lost in thoughts, gently bring your attention back to the breath. Breathe in deeply. Breathe out completely. Breathe in peace. Breathe out tension. Breathe in presence. Breathe out anxiety. Do this for at least 10 minutes. Don't rush. This is the foundation of everything. If you skip this step because you're in a hurry to get the answer, you'll be operating from the ego, and the test won't work. Creating the sacred inner space is essential because it's in this space that the self can emerge. Continue breathing, observing, bringing attention back every time it wanders. Gradually, you'll feel a shift in the quality of consciousness. Thoughts will slow down. Breathing will become naturally deeper and slower. A calm will begin to settle in. The second step is conscious connection with the self. Bring attention to the center of your chest, to the space of the heart. Not the physical heart, but the energetic space that exists there. The one that expands when you experience true love and contracts when you feel fear or rejection. Imagine that a soft light exists in this space, starting small like the flame of a candle. With each breath, imagine this light growing, expanding, first filling the entire chest, then spreading to the shoulders, arms, descending to the abdomen, hips, legs. You're filling yourself with the light of the self, with the energy of the true soul. While you breathe with this light, make a clear and silent intention to connect now with the deepest part, the one that's beyond the ego, beyond fear, beyond the need for control. To open yourself to receive the truth that the self already knows, even if it's different from what the ego wants to hear. To trust the wisdom of the soul and commit to honoring what it will show. This intention is crucial because it establishes that you're not doing this process to confirm what you've already decided you want to be true. You're doing it to discover what is true, whatever that may be. And here's the hardest part. You need to be genuinely willing to accept any answer. If you're desperate for the answer to be yes, the ego will try to manipulate the process to give you what you want. If you're too afraid that the answer is yes, because that would imply responsibilities or changes that scare you, the ego will also interfere. The only way this test works is if you reach, even if just for brief moments, a state of true neutrality where you're genuinely willing to accept and honor whatever truth emerges. Continue breathing with the light in the heart, reaffirming the intention to be open to truth. When you feel an expansion in the chest, a sensation of openness, of deep presence, there's a connection with the self. The third step is to ask the sacred question and observe the self's response. But here's what's crucial to understand. The self doesn't respond in words. It responds through sensations, through direct knowing that arises without need for verbal translation. So you're not going to hear a voice in your head saying yes or no. The answer will come in a much more subtle but infinitely more reliable way. While maintaining attention in the light-filled heart space, gently bring the presence of the person in question into consciousness. Don't visualize the face. Don't remember specific moments. That activates emotional memories, and the ego can infiltrate. Simply allow the essence, the energy of this person, to appear in the field of consciousness. Just feel the presence without judgment, without story, without expectation. And then, from the deepest space of the heart, ask the question, is this person my twin flame? And then observe. Don't think, don't analyze. Just observe what happens in the body, in the energy of the heart, in the space of consciousness when you ask this question in their presence. If the answer is yes, if they truly are your twin flame, You'll feel an expansion in the chest, an opening, a sensation of coming home. It may come as a feeling of warmth, of fullness, of completeness, that has nothing to do with them completing you, but rather with the recognition of two parts of the same original essence recognizing each other. There may be emotion arising, tears, but it's not dramatic emotion from the ego. It's a sacred emotion, reverent, deeply peaceful even in the intensity. And most important, you'll feel a certainty that doesn't need justification. You'll simply know, in the same way you know you're alive, that you breathe, that you exist. If the answer is no, if they're not your twin flame but perhaps a soulmate, a karmic partner, or a significant soul but not a twin flame, you'll feel something different. It may be a sensation of slight contraction, of closing, not of rejection but of this isn't it. It may be a quality of love that's present but different. Less of that intensity of total recognition. It may simply be an absence of that feeling of home. And if you don't feel anything clear, if there's confusion or uncertainty even after doing the process honestly, that's also an answer. It means that perhaps you're not ready yet to know, that the process of not knowing is still teaching you something essential, or that you need to do more internal work of clearing projections and fears from the ego before the voice of the self can be heard clearly. But here's what's most important to understand about this test. It's not something you do once and you're done. It's a practice, a way of relating to intuition, of developing trust in inner wisdom. Every time you do this process, you strengthen the connection with the self. You make it easier to distinguish its voice from the voice of the ego. You develop more confidence in the ability to know deep truths without needing constant external validation. If you've made it this far and felt that this video was speaking directly to something deep within you, if you've recognized your own journey of desperate search for confirmation and understood that the time has come to look within, then I need to tell you about something that will completely accelerate this process of reconnection with intuition. I've created 2 exclusive materials based on the deepest teachings of Carl Jung about developing intuition and connecting with the self. The first is 21 Days of Transformation with Carl Jung, a practical guide with specific exercises that refine intuition, strengthen the connection with the self, and teach you to navigate life from inner truth. The second is the Soul Survival Manual, with practical strategies for the moments where the temptation to seek one more external confirmation will be very strong, where doubt will try to convince you that you can't trust your intuition. The links are in the first pinned comment of this video. And now I want to know who really stayed until the end of this journey. Write in the comments, "I trust my intuition," because that shows you're not just another viewer, but someone who's truly committed to this transformation. Remember, only 5% of people develop the courage to stop seeking answers outside and begin to deeply trust their own intuition. Not because it's impossible, but because it requires a radical transformation in how you relate to yourself. You've made it this far because your soul knows you're ready for this transformation. Thank you for having the courage to dive so deeply into this work. See you in the next video.